Okay, on Ellipses worksheet, problem number 2, I'm gonna do a few of these problems. So we're gonna start with number 1. Okay, and it says put in standard form of an ellipse. Probably the biggest trouble kids are having is figuring out the foci. So stay tuned and we will work on finding the foci. But first we have to get it in a form of an ellipse. So remember me telling you to group your x's. So this is gonna be x squared plus 4x. And then we're going to group our y's, so 4y squared minus 24y. And then you move the 36 over. So that's where you're going to start. Okay. Step 2 is completing a square. Well, on the first one, on the x's, completing the square works just fine. You don't have to worry about it not looking right, because it doesn't have a leading coefficient. So to complete the square, we're going to take half of 4. Okay, which would be 2 and squared. So you're actually adding 4 here. But whatever you do to the left, you have to come and add 4 to this side. Right, now on here though, you can't do this part. You have to factor a what out? A 4 to complete the square. So you actually have to make this 4 times y squared minus 6y. Right? Now you can complete the square. So what's half of 6? 3, and 3 squared is 9. So you're going to add 9. But guys, it's not really 9. Remember, there's a 4 outside of here. So it's 4 times 9. So you're actually adding 36, right? So when there's a 4 out there, you got to be careful. So plus 36. So let's clean it up so it looks like it's supposed to. Here, this becomes, when I'm going to complete the square, in other words, you're going to factor this. This is the same thing as x plus 2 squared, right? You just take half the middle term. If I foiled x plus 2 out, I would get x squared plus 4x plus 4. Okay, now then you're going to factor this one. Don't forget about that 4 that's sitting out there. And you want y, half of negative 6 is negative 3. And then on the right, the 36s would cancel, leaving me with 4 here. Now an equation for an ellipse, it has to equal 1. Not like a circle. So you're going to have to get rid of this 4. And to get rid of the 4, you divide everything by it. So divide this by 4, the middle, and here. Okay? Now then this becomes x plus 2 squared over 4 plus, these 4's cancel, don't they? So that gives you y minus 3 squared over 1, right? You need a number down there. Equals 1. So there's your actual equation. Now you can take a look at that and find the center. The center then is negative 2, 3. So I was going to graph the center, negative 2, 3, I'm here. In an ellipse, right, a squared belongs to the biggest. So in this case, right, this right here is where our a squared is, and this is where our b squared is, correct? A squared belongs to the x-axis. So if a squared is 4, then a means we're going to do plus and minus what? 2. Remember, we take the square root of it? And a means you're the major axis. So which axis am I going to go plus and minus 2 on? On axis x. You should put it under there to help us remember. And if you want to go ahead and graph that, you can. To the right 2 and to the left 2. Now let's go to b. B squared is down here. The square root of 1 is 1. So plus and minus 1. And we travel that on the y-axis. B is the minor axis in an ellipse. So you're going to go up 1 and down 1. Guys, it's this tiny little ellipse. There it is. Now, as we talked about, the next thing to find is C. And I need to know C so that I know how far to slide the center points to make the foci, right? C tells me how far I am from the center to the foci. Okay? It doesn't give me any information, so we do it mathematically. c squared equals a squared minus b squared, right? So c squared equals, you look here, a squared is 4, b squared is 1, so c squared is 4 minus 1, which is 3. C squared is 3, so c is, I'm going to go left and right, okay, root 3. Well, if you use your calculator, because we need to know about how much that is. How much is root 3, guys? 1.7. So it's approximately 1.7, so I know how far to go in my picture. Now, which axis is that on? Look and find where A is. The major axis. You can look back up at your equation if you want. The major axis is this one. So I'm going to go 1.7 in both directions here. And then just label that with an F for the foci. There's barely room to do it because it's so little. Okay, now then guys, if you've tuned out, listen back up again on how to find the foci. You need help finding your foci points. All right, now let's think about this for a second. I was at the center and I slid the foci left and right. You can go back to your picture if you want to. If you're sliding the foci left and right, that means your major axis is the x-axis, right? And if I'm going left and right, if my center was this, which of these has to change if you're moving left to right?
Negative.
Yeah, the -2 changes, right? Whatever x value is what's changing. So then my 3 in here stays the same. And you can check. This would be the same. I'm going to go, negative whatever, up 3. Over 2, up 3. Over 4, up 3, right? Okay, so the 3's stay the same because it doesn't change. I didn't slide it up and down. Now then, we did slide it left and right. And you ask yourself, well, how much? How much did we slide it left and right? We slid it root 3. Well, where were we to begin with? At -2. So we did -2 plus root 3. And then we went to -2 minus root 3. And that's the ordered pair. The length of the major axis is double, so that would be 4. And the length of the minor axis is 2. All right, now you try the next one. All right, so now we're going to do problem number 6. And the question is asking, write an equation of an ellipse from the information. And guys, if you're trying to find an ellipse, remember there are several things that are important. I like to make a list. We want to find the center. I want to know which axis is major. So we'll do the major axis. And A, B, and sometimes we even need to know C. Okay, so those are the things that are important. And I'm going to write down everything on here. You guys don't have to write all this. I'm just trying to take good notes for you so you understand. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the fact that the endpoints on the major axis are here, and here's the foci. Well, I'm going to start with step 1. I'm going to find the center. Okay, and guys, we know the center is in the middle of the two foci. So it's the middle of 6,2 and -4,2. Correct? It's the middle of those two things. Now, the center's in the middle of the foci. So you can use midpoint formula, and you can also look at it. So 6 plus -4 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And then if it was 2, it's going to stay 2, right? 2 plus 2 is 4 divided by 2. So the center is actually 1, 2. So that's taken care of. Now we need to know the major axis. We have to have the major axis so that we know which A goes with. A goes with the major, okay? And we need to know where to put it. Well, I think that you decide, okay, let's put a number 2. You should look at the foci to find the major axis. Look at the foci to find the major axis. So here they are. Okay, 2 and 2 stayed the same, right? Which meant that the x's changes. So we slid something on the x-axis. So which axis is major then? The x-axis. Are you all kind of getting that now? You look at the foci, right? Okay, the y's didn't move. So which way were they changed? They were changed with the x. So the x-axis is the major. Okay? Now we have to find A, B, and C. If did it give us anything, what it gave us is that the major axis is here. In other words, guys, it gave us the distance of the entire major axis. It didn't actually shout out what A was, but we can find, we can use 10-2 and negative 8-2 to find the distance of the major axis. You can draw a picture and count. You can use the distance formula, or I like to just look at them. Okay? If this is 2 and 2, how far apart, guys, are 10 and negative? Let me move this over, I'm sorry. Okay, so we're going to use these points to find the distance of the major axis. How far apart are 10 and negative 8? Because the two stay the same. You can use the whole distance formula, or you can look at it that way. Right, they're 18 units apart, aren't they? So the major axis is 18 units long. The major axis then is 18 units long. Now, remember, okay, if you're going to draw a picture, that means the whole thing is 18 units. But all I want is A. So what's A going to be? A is half of that, 9. Okay? So A is 9. Because remember, A is the distance from the center to the major. So this is 9. Right, go back to here's A. Did it give us any way to find, it gave us no information at all about the minor points. It didn't tell us how long the minor axis was, nothing. So we have to resort to using C, right? And we know about C because we know the foci and we know the center. Okay, so on step 4, we're going to use the center and the foci to find C. We're going to use the center and the foci. Well, the center, guys, is 1, 2, and it doesn't matter which foci you use. I'm going to use, let's say, 6, 2. You can use the distance formula, which takes a long time, or you can look at the picture, or I'm sorry, look at the points. If this is 2 and 2, we don't use those. We're going to look at the 1 and the 6. How far apart are 1 and 6?
5.
How many units? 5. Right? So C is 5. C is 5. Okay? Now we're almost finished. I realize this is a lot. You don't have to write all this down. I'm just talking you through it. Now let's look at number 5. I can write my equation if I can come up with A and B. Well, I have A and C, right? And so if I use my formula, I can get B. The formula calls for C squared equals A squared minus B squared. So 25 equals 81 minus B squared. So take 25 and subtract 81. And you'll get negative 56 equals negative B squared. So B squared actually equals 56. Okay, so over here, B is the square root of 56. We don't have to go any farther though, okay? You don't need the actual answer because you're just going to square it, which drops the radical. So for your last step, write the equation. You're going to use the center, which will be x minus 1 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 1. And on the x-axis, it's a. So a squared is 81. And I know that x goes with a because a goes with my major axis. Look, that's important. Right? I knew where to put the 81 because my major axis, they said, was x. If they had said y, I would have put the 81 over the y. So under y gets b squared. Well, the square root of 56 squared is just 56. So that's your final answer. Okay, so now I'd like to move to problem number 5. Okay, it says the major axis is 20 units long, right, and it's parallel to the y-axis. And the length of the minor axis is 6, and the center is at 4, 2. Right, so remember, we're going to list the things we need to know. We need to know the center, the major axis, A, B, and sometimes C if we can't get the other parts. So we'll start with that. Well, it gave us the center, so that part we didn't have to work for, so 4, 2. Then it tells us that the major axis is 20 units long and it's parallel to the y. So if I'm parallel to the y-axis, then the major axis is also the y-axis. And if the major axis is 20 units long, now let's think about this for a second. I'm going to draw a picture. Right? If my major axis, okay, and actually it's the y-axis, I'm sorry, so let's draw it like this. If the major axis is 20 units long, okay, here's the center, the whole thing is 20, right? The entire thing. Then if the whole thing is 20, then what's just A? Okay, what's just A? Remember, A is just the distance from the center to the outside edge. So if the entire thing is 20, A is only going to be 10. You gotta be careful about that. If I give you the entire axis, then A and B are just half of it, right? Now then it says the length of the minor axis is 6. So the entire axis on the minor is 6. So B is just half of that, so B would be 3. Well, it gave me enough information for A and B, so I didn't even have to find C. All right, now then you can just write your equation. Y minus 4 squared, I'm sorry, that should say x. X minus 4 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 1. Now the major axis is the y and it goes with this, so 100 goes here, right? A squared, and then this becomes 9, which is 3 squared. So there's your final answer. Okay, so that's all that I'm going to do of this review. If you need more help, you can go watch the other videos from Ellipses Day 1 or Ellipses Day 2.